for being here with us. And before we begin, could you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone, I'm Viola, the CEO and founder of Find Solution AI. So our company is mostly focusing in developing motivation AI, which means that we see people respond and then real-time respond to it when they're learning. So it's like a smart device, like a phone or whatever it is. The front camera, we directly see the response of the learners or kids. Other than that, we also see the learning behavior of that person. So we can see if that person is confused or struggling, so we help them out, especially for mock exam or exam practice, that kind of thing.
I see. It's really interesting the fact that you're integrating technology and emotion, the psychological aspect, to innovate and create something that can help people.
Yeah.
And so what was really the inspiration behind this?
So in the past, I used to be a teacher as well. So that is the reason why I've been working as a former educator for almost 12 years. So especially in Asia countries, you understand when you're trying to teach somebody, they try to pretend that they understand it. So it's really fun. So when you ask a lot of questions, they'll say, ha, 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 I understand, that kind of thing. But in the end, then you will find out that they pretend to be. So it's really difficult at first because they try to avoid any embarrassment, that kind of thing. But the point is, for the teacher, if they have to check if that person, do they understand something, they have to check it by quiz, exam, or a lot of assessment at the back. So that is not something really healthy. So that is the reason why we try to find out is during the learning process, so they don't need to do any exam or quiz, that kind of thing. So when they're learning, so we can see the learning behavior, and then we can see the confidence level of that person, so we can find out if that person is struggling or not. So which means that at first we wanted to try to avoid exam because we know the whole process, the learning behavior at all. But I have a note to note. We don't have any video recording. We don't have any photos received when the person is using the app, because we just do real-time measurement. We just want to help them out, and we don't do any labeling as well.
I see. So you've taken care of privacy issues,
yes,
and all those factors that might concern people.
Yeah.
I think that's a really great approach that you took. Did you have to do any other additional research, like the psychological aspect of it, or listen to what the experts have to say when you are at the initial development of this entire solution?
The initial development of this, the whole software and whole program, we work with UCL Educate program. We are the first Asian companies that has been chosen to work with them. The research is fully granted by EU government as well, so we're really lucky. So we have been doing the research for over quite some time. Development-wise, we have been developed over 8 years already. So we rolled it out in our internal center up front. So we directly see when the motivation of the person when they're learning, and then after all, they use the software, the whole thing. So we're very lucky. We already have 4 patents granted already. We already have multiple pending at the moment. But the point is, we believe motivation model, especially because you want to see when they're learning, the motivation is still there or not. That is more important than if your exam result is good or not good. Because if that person is not motivated, no matter how hard that you try to drill, or no matter how hard you try to teach them something new, but it's really difficult to get it through.
I see. I know that you may not be the exact technician behind this entire technology, but in your opinion, what do you think is special about AI?
Literally because I used to be a former educator. So as a teacher, you understand there is a lot of things that if you have to put it in AI, first of all, you need to adopt it to your operation flow. So AI is not something so scary or so difficult, I would say. But the point is, it's where you start your methodology going and where you put your algorithm between it. And meanwhile, you also can collect some of the data, which means that it can help the machine to learn better. So for us, because learning there is a long journey, especially how you determine what kind of data is useful, what kind of things that can help the kids. So there's a lot of science, there's a lot of things that can play along with for us. So it's quite a lot of fun to work with it. So it doesn't have to be so difficult to work on it. If you have any small ideas, and you can still roll it out. So that is the reason why when we first started it, we started in 2 small group of schools. So we do some control tests, and then we rolled it out with motivation AI, another one that worked out. So we see the progress of the kids when they have it. The result is really different. And then the most important thing is we find out the engagement for the learners to learn. They're highly engaged. Most of the time, you know what, Hong Kong kids, they will say, I try to avoid homeworks, I try to avoid quiz, that kind of thing. So, but the school, they told us, a lot of schools, because now we rolled out in 34 schools in Hong Kong at the moment, especially for mock exam, the students literally asked the teacher, can we have more of these or more often, that kind of thing. So that makes a very big difference. And meanwhile, for teacher-wise, they also can understand where they get stuck with, so they can do intervention in class, which means it's real time. So you don't have to wait for, let's say, you submit your homework, you submit your quiz, 2 weeks later you come back to the same issue, but it's real time now. In the coming year, we target to have at least 70 schools on board, especially for mock exam part, because mock exam, we can learn quite a lot of things of when the person started to practice and how can motivate them to get better. And lately, we also have some good news to share. TOEFL for English exam is on board on our content as well as a content provider. It's a full global access, except South Korea, but it's already big enough. So I guess it's coming a quarter, we will have another global exam on board on our system as well.
Wow, that's really interesting. Even those official exams.
Yeah.
Well, you just talked about like the educational aspect or how solution AI is used in education industry, but I've also realized that it's been used in healthcare and like e-commerce and corporate training as well, as according to your website. Could you tell us more about that?
So lately, the most important thing is the reason why you want to understand the motivation of that person is because you want to understand that person so you can help them with something. So motivation model is specified, especially we see the emotion of the person, but then using AI to judge what kind of suggested action that we should give it to them. So it's best fit, especially for education or training wise, because that's a lot of resources involvement. But the point is the teacher or the lecturer, they cannot do a lot of things, because if your audience is talking about 50 people or more, so you cannot do tailor-made stuff for them. So lately we have a new product which is especially focusing for corporate training as well. We embedded with motivation AI, but meanwhile we can also doing the one-on-one or one-to-many video conferencing at the back, but we're using AI in order to analyze the conversation ongoing, so we can highlight and transcript later on. And meanwhile, we already embedded with one of the fintech training, which is compliance training for banks.
Wow, it's really spreading to all sorts of industries.
Yeah.
Did you visualize this at the initial stage, or was this like intended?
So for me, at first when I started something small, and I have a vision, because I believe there's a lot of people, you want to motivate them, or you want to understand what the mind or what they're doing at that moment, or do they need help, that kind of thing, especially Southeast Asia countries that everybody to try to avoid embarrassment, that kind of thing. So I do believe that one, it can roll out really far, but I would say we're very lucky, but to be honest, we did a lot of work at the back.
I can kind of really feel the amount of work that you put into this. But like spotting this opportunity specifically, how did you actually manage to do it?
The major reason why is I have several education centers in the past. So there's a lot of challenges, especially you need to run centers, especially you need to understand a lot of kids, how they're doing at the back. And meanwhile, you're managing quite a lot of teachers at the back. Managing that part is really difficult, I would say, and that is the reason why we find out the pain point is we only can see the exam result of the kids, so what's next? But the point is you have a gap between they started to learn something, but later on, let's say 6 months later, you see the result. But if they go south, they already go south, right? So there's nothing that you can do. So that is the reason why it was like, why we don't do something that during the process we know what is happening. During the process that we can do some intervention if there is something goes wrong, go wrong or whatever it is. So that is the reason why we come along with the idea, and then we start to roll it out in the current state. And then we started growing that way. So whenever you have a business idea, whenever you have something that you wanted to start with, I will say we highly suggest that find something that you're currently facing the same problem. It means that others are also facing the same problem. So that is how we started with.
So spotting the gap that you can potentially bridge and acting on it, like the action part is really important, according to what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
I see. So as an entrepreneur, we would also like to get to know you as an entrepreneur. And did you have any personal or some challenges, I guess? Not, it doesn't have to be only personal, but like related to the company itself, the development. But did you have any initial challenges?
Oh, there's a lot. To be honest, the reason why is if you start to, let me remind everyone about it. So at first when we start something like this, is to be honest, at first I was thinking the scale should be small. But when you start to roll it out, and then you start to realize that there is a lot of resources, so you need to put it in a lot of talent, a lot of capital, a lot of everything, I would say. So every time when you have to start to think it through, you need to really think it and plan it through, and have some buffer before that. To be honest, because I used to have quite a lot of business at the back. I'm a serial entrepreneur myself. So that is the reason why I have enough cash flow in order to cover quite a lot of stuff, especially for R&D. There is a lot of expenditure right there. But the result is fruitful. But it's not easy because imagine you have to do an R&D several years before you roll it out in the market. Right. So, wow, I was literally invest almost 12 million Hong Kong dollars myself before any investment on board. The biggest challenge I would say is how you roll it out to the market. You make sure what you build is whatever the market is needed or they want it. That's something really important because especially for school market, the buyer and the user are not the same. So that is difficult. Second part is I would say the capital itself. But we're pretty lucky. We successfully raised Series A for $5 million US in 2 years ago, and then now we're also doing fundraising for the coming expansion, especially for global exam like TOEFL and others as well. So we're still very lucky. We in touch with quite a lot of different investors at the moment. Capital, that part is really something. And as a small reminder, I would say is you need to make sure whatever you plan to roll it out, you need to have a very secure or solid plan. Meanwhile, with or without capital investment, that kind of thing, you still can roll it out in a small way or pilot, then you can see the market if the market loves your product or not. Mm-hmm. The third part is how you manage it. Managing that part is really difficult, I would say. The major reason why is if you roll out a brand new product in the market, there's a lot of unknowns that you don't know. And meanwhile, there is a lot of things that you need to think of, which means that there will be a lot of different new requirements to your tech team. So every time when you work with tech team, they will say, we plan it really clearly, right? But the point is, in the real world, it's not something like that. So how you manage things is also different. So it's talking about a company culture and things. So, but luckily the team is really open-minded and they love to learn something new.
That's good. It's good to hear that. And it's an innovative too, right? You guys are working with AI, so you guys should have a team that's really willing to learn.
Yeah.
But like, just a general tip to those aspiring entrepreneurs. Do you have any advice for them when it comes to setting up teams and really managing a team?
I would say the most challenging thing is how you manage a team, because whenever you start something new, especially startup, they have a lot of chances. They also have a lot of ups and downs, right? So your team need to be really, pretty strong. They can get it through. Meanwhile, it's not technically strong, but it's also how they. Because when there's ups, that's everybody is happy. When there's downs, and can they manage it also? So you need to find similar mindset, different experience, then join the team, they can contribute for good.
I see. And you also mentioned earlier that you have gotten successful investors to invest into your company. So I also realized that your company, Find Solution AI, has been successfully supported by incubators, accelerators. Could you give us some tips to those aspiring entrepreneurs when it comes to joining those kind of programs?
So I would say that it's really important that you find a good accelerator to help you out a little bit, because startups that you cannot hire a lot of people in the team, which means that you have a lot of knowledge that you may not know really well. A lot of tech companies, they're not strong in marketing, they're not strong in, let's say, financial part. But the point is, it doesn't mean that you need to have every superhero on board. But if you have a very good accelerator or a lot of good association or supporting organization, they help you out a little bit, they give you some advice, that would be very nice. We're really lucky we joined Cyberport, and then we get through the incubation program, and then we also get invested by Cyberport as well. So Cyberport has been helping us out in a lot of different dimensions. To be honest, my Series A investor also introduced by Cyberport. It's just a 3 minutes pitch in an event, and then we find our lead investor. This is really lucky, I would say. But the point is, if you find a good one, you also need to see if you match them or not.
Right.
So it's not if there's perfect, but it needs to see if you love it, you fit in it, or something like that. There's a lot of accelerator in the market. I will say, think it through before you join it, especially if they take equity or not. Do they really give you a lot of support in a good way? And meanwhile, you can check the reviews. There's a lot of reviews online anyway. So do your homework before you choose something. So in Hong Kong, there's quite a lot of good association at the back. Highly recommend Cyberport. Meanwhile, because I was a serial entrepreneur, right? So my very first business, I was in youth organization of Hong Kong youth, Hong Kong FYG, Foundation of Youth, something like that. They're the one who helped me on my first business. To be honest, they are also the one who helped me get the biggest award in my life. Our company, we have over 24 awards globally or locally. We have got the Entrepreneur of the Year 2015.
Yes, that's a big one.
Yeah, that one was a big one. That one over 68 countries. We on behalf of Hong Kong government, we got it. First winner from China, also from Hong Kong. I would say, to be honest, that experience is something really big. But the point is, you need to find some platform in order to help you, especially on network-wise, knowledge-wise, because when you do business, there's always 3 core things: right person, right time, right place. So those platforms, they will help you a lot, especially in these kind of dimension things. So find the one that you love, find the one that you feel comfortable with. There's a lot in the market. Make sure if they take your equity, you think it works or not. There's a lot of organizations, the equity free. But some, when they take equity, they may give you something else, but better, or I don't know. It depends on your own experience, but you need to do more homework.
Doing the homework, that's really important. I think it comes to the integral issue when it comes to anything, actually doing the homework, doing the research beforehand. So you've mentioned that, and we've also just heard from you that Find Solution AI has made such great achievements, and you've got awards as well. Do you guys have any plans moving into the future at this moment?
So at the moment, we're very lucky. We have some global exam on board. We have at least 2 major exams already on board already. The first one is the Japanese math curriculum, which is endorsed by Japanese government. So that one, they are super famous in Japan. So that part, we're planning to roll it out in Southeast Asian market at the moment. TOEFL, everybody knows, right? They're the biggest exam in the world. So they have over 2.5 million users every year, exam taker every year. So that one, we will also roll it out to Southeast Asian market, which is especially we work it online. So in the coming 2 more quarters, we have more exam coming. So when there is exam practice, I hope everyone will think of Find Solution later on.
I'm sure that they will, yes.
Yeah.
And this educational landscape is definitely changing rapidly right now, as well as Find Solution AI. Considering the things that you are doing, how do you see the future of education at this time?
After COVID, I would say there will be new normal, especially on education, because in the past, I think there's three elements that people should think through, because there is a lot of school they still using analog way to teach. Nothing bad, but they should have something new now. I think I would suggest digital transformation, because there's still a lot of paper going on, a lot of writing going on. I think after COVID, it means that they will have blended learning for sure. Blended learning means that they will have some offline learning, because you still cannot walk away from the human touch. Education, 80% talking about human touch. But if there's technology that can facilitate better human touch, I think it's even better. So motivation model is helping to fill the gap. That is the reason why we're working on it before COVID. Blended learning, online, offline, that part, they need to have linkage together. So which means that some integrated platform which can link up multi-softwares or device, that will be another big game, I would say. Last but not least, I would say remote learning, not only just video conferencing, but I think you can link it to, let's say, more soft skills wise. That kind of development in the future should be a goal as well.
These are all really great insights that you're giving us today. Before we end our session today, could you give us one or two last advice for those aspiring entrepreneurs out there?
Before you start a business, think it twice. To be honest, it's really demanding, rewarding as well, but the point is there's a lot of ups and downs. So if you're really thinking forward to have a very comfortable life, easy one, don't think to start a business. But if you really enjoying problem solving, you love the fright in order to work on something new, innovate something new that suits you, then go for it. Find somebody, they have similar mindset, then you can set up a team. You can, sooner or later, maybe you're going to be another big CEO on a startup, or I don't know.
Who knows? And obviously the mentality aspect is really important.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you for coming here today, Viola.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was a great opportunity to talk to you. And we hope to see more advancements and innovations that you're making with Find Solution AI.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.